Welcome to A Chat with Heart podcast. I'm your host, Christina Martin. I'm here to guide us on this journey of heartfelt and uncensored conversations with friends I've met while touring my music in Europe and across North America, and people who have life experience that I genuinely believe we can all learn from. Our personal stories have great power to heal, influence, and inspire. All we have to do is show up for the conversation. If we just talk about it, we could shine a light, we could break a dark day. If we just talk about it, we can cut away, we can make a brighter day. Hello, my little heartbeats. This is a fun episode. I mean, I guess they've all been fun so far, right? I think so. But this one, really, really fun because we get to play a game and I get to introduce and celebrate Walker and Devon from Vancouver, British Columbia, the creators of the conversation game that I love, Fluster. If you followed any of my live stream events from earlier in the pandemic, you may have participated in a little Fluster action with me. This game helped me ease the awkwardness of performing online, and it allowed me to engage and interact with people between the songs. I wonder what games you enjoy playing with your friends to help learn more about one another, or to ease the awkwardness of having to be in close proximity with complete strangers for any length of time. Call my Heartbeat hotline. The number is at the end of every episode, and let me know. In this episode, find out if Walker, Devon, or I get flustered during our fun chat with Heart. Walker and Devon, I don't even think you have last names. I think is this like a Madonna kind of situation? Like you are just known as Walker and Devon, or?
Yeah, more like a Sonny and Cher situation, maybe.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I want to know how you two met.
We were homeschooled for the first couple of years. And so we met as part of this home learning community where all the sort of local kids who were homeschooled would get together and we would do, different events and meetups and stuff. And so, yeah, we met probably when we were around 5 doing that. And I don't remember the specifics, but we became friends pretty quickly, I think. And then from there, we went to school together at an alternative public school called Windsor House, which was sort of in between homeschooling and regular public school. And had our whole schooling together and have always sort of worked on creative projects together. We had a band, we made movies. We've always kind of gravitated towards teaming up on stuff. And now Fluster.
I didn't realize you've known each other for that long. Like that's incredible.
Yeah, over 25 years now.
That's pretty unique, and it is funny. Like Walker just mentioned it, and it's like makes sense in the context of talking about Fluster as well. Like it's strange. We're actually really different as people, but we've been like best friends for almost our whole lives, and we've strangely worked on creative projects together, which is kind of weird because in many ways we're kind of like oil and water, but somehow like we mix it all together and we keep coming back to like the pain and the also like the satisfaction of like creating things together, right? Because it always seems to work out.
Yeah. So I want to know about the pain. Is it that your heads have butted at times, but you've now have the experience that you've come around to the end of creative projects and enjoyed the process overall, or you've been happy with the end result and gone, well, we should do that again?
We don't know any other way.
Yeah.
I guess I would describe it. It's not even so much heads butting. We don't have big fights.
No.
We're too passive aggressive to like scream at each other, but we have a nice amount of creative tension because we have different personalities. So do you know about satisficers and maximizers? You heard of that?
No, I've never. So this is
it's this idea that like some people are maximizers, so they want to get the most out of something. So An easy example is if you're buying something. So Devon's a classic maximizer. He's going to stay up till 2 a.m. reading about, what the best blender is. And he is going to find the best blender and he's going to be so happy with that blender. And I'm a Satisficer, which means there's sort of a minimum I'm trying to get to. And once I get it, that's good. So I just want to know what a decent blender is, but I don't want to spend all night researching blenders because the difference to me is not that important. And so
Gotcha.
That's kind of a different approach we have to things, that Devon has usually more sort of vision and more kind of scope to his ideas, and I can be a little more like, well, let's reel it in a little bit, more of maybe like some realism mixed in with that. Is that how you would describe it, Tito?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think we have like a healthy, and I think we always have had like healthy respect for each other's style, but it just naturally is so different that, there's a lot of kind of tense or just like difficult conversations where we're trying to see each other's perspective and we're trying to come to, I guess, essentially like a compromise. But what's cool is feel like we start at such different ends. Like our compromise, like genuinely, I feel like does usually end up in like a really good middle ground but it sometimes can be time consuming. And I feel like we've gotten a lot better at it over the years as we become better people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So there have been improvements.
Yeah. The ratio between like tense moments to like smooth sailing, I'd say in the last like 2 to 3 years has definitely changed.
But it's so funny because like the general, I guess, like shape of the pattern is like so consistent. Like even like we're 15 years old or 13 years old, we're making movies like with little camcorders, and like Walker's like writing the script, doing all like the thoughtful, hard, like slow work. And then I'm like having the idea for like the weird big stunt we can do, or like the camera angle that's going to like take forever to set up.
Yep. It sounds like a dream team. And it sounds like all those projects that y'all have worked on since you were 5 years old, everything's brought you to this point. All the experience, the hit and misses, or maybe they were all hits. Do you feel like you've arrived in a way with Fluster?
It definitely feels like the most, I want to say like sort of adult version of the partnership. When we've made stuff before, it's always been, especially, when you're a teenager and you have, a band or you make a movie, it's not put up against, professional musicians and professional filmmakers. It's a fun thing you're doing while you're in high school or in college, whatever. And so everything's kind of been like, yeah, it's good, but like not like nothing has been at that sort of professional level. So it's been cool that one of our weird little projects just kept growing until it became, something that does have to compete on that professional level with all the other games out there and all the other places people can spend their money.
I think I wanted to get 2 or 3, conversation games when the pandemic started for my online streaming audiences, and yours was right up there. It was one of those top ones that I found. I was like, this one's gonna work. Oh, it's a Canadian company. I could feel good about that.
We need to get you to do like a competitive landscape analysis for us.
Oh, I'd love to. I'll do anything you want. Yeah, I'm a big fan. So, Devon, before we go on, I'm searching for a orange juice, like a manual press, like all metal, no plastic, something that's going to last me for the rest of my life, for oranges, limes, grapefruits, So if you could, since you're a maximizer, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Since you're a maximizer, if you could just kind of stay up all night and do the research and just send me a link so I can buy one this week, that'd be great.
Great. Yeah. I think I alrery have the one for you at home. So I'll just find the brand name. And
I really would appreciate that. Okay. So yeah, I want to hear from you too. The evolution of Fluster. How did this start? Did you have to throw a million marketing bucks at it? Was it a slow burn? Tell us how Fluster came into existence.
So the real kind of like spark moment was a long time ago. It was in 2012, and I was on a trip. It wasn't a holiday per se. I was helping some friends build a cabin in this like really remote part of BC, and there's a hot springs nearby. So these were some like really close friends, and we went to this hot springs, and there was a few like people we we didn't know, but we had met that day through kind of a shared connection. Anyway, we're in the hot springs and we're butt naked and we're under the stars and we're probably a little bit intoxicated. It was a pretty magical scene, but there was this one extra special ingredient, which was that one of the guys was like, he was like a world traveler. Like his MO in life was to travel the world. You know, that was really like his main thing. And so he was full of stories, but he also brought these questions to us and he asked us like, hey, I have these 5 questions. And and it was like really at the time felt like pretty big. He's like, I've been asking these questions in living rooms and at dinner tables all around the world. And I'd like to ask them to you guys. Like, are you up for that? So we said, okay. And there was just 5 questions and they were kind of weird. They're kind of esoteric. They're totally different than the normal types of questions people ask each other in my experience. And what was so wild about it is like I learned things about these like really, really close friends of mine that I had never heard before. Mm-hmm. And I realized, I guess, that, there is like so much more to these people than I'm even aware of. And I think of myself as, being very close to them. And then I learned all these things about strangers and you kind of like super bond, when you start talking about deep stuff with people you just met. And we ended up hanging out, all of us together for the next like couple of days. And then I got back from this trip and I'm hanging out with Walker. I remember exactly where we are. We're having a beer. And I was like, I am still thinking about this one night. It was so impactful to have this really deep bonding experience. This is what happened. And I want more of that in my life. Like it really kind of made me realize that I don't actually like reflect like that very often. And, I was still thinking about some of the things that I had said. Do I really believe that? Is that going to change? Like,
can I go back and change my answer?
Yeah, thought-provoking stuff. So we said, let's try to figure out a way where we can spark that type of night any night of the week, not with this just like perfect recipe of the perfect number of glasses of wine and the right starry sky and the right naked magical question man in the room, like so that's where Fluster started. We basically for the next we basically just started saying, committed to each other, that we're going to dig around in our psyches into all like the nooks and crannies of the things we like think about but don't like talk about or like are afraid of or like wonder about. And we're just going to write them down, and just did that for a while.
The original box is 100 cards. Am I right?
Yeah. 100 questions.
100 questions. What else is in there?
There's Fluster cards to turn a question back on the person who asked it.
So that's the real Fluster moment. That's when you get when the question gets turned around on you.
Gotcha.
And there's the around the horn cards. I think you have the newest version. What's it look like on the bottom?
On the bottom, it looks like this.
Yeah, that's the new version.
Okay, so
sorry for the compelling radio moment where we.
I should know all of this, but to be honest, I just read the cards, and sometimes I answer them just to make other people feel more comfortable. If they're not sure, I'll go first or whatnot. But I haven't actually been playing the game. I suppose we haven't had a whole lot of people around. In person, but okay, this is good. So
that a lot of people do that.
Yes,
we're totally in favor of that.
You're cool with that? Like I'm not gonna. Okay, so is there anything else?
You can still be our biggest East Coast celebrity advocate.
Thank you so much. So is there anything else in the box that we should know about that I should be aware of?
So Fluster cards, around the horn cards, which is you can choose to open a question up to everyone to get everyone's answer. So if you're playing with the sort of rules, with the format, there's reaction cards as well. When someone gives their answer, you can respond to it with 1, 2, or 3 exclamation marks to kind of reward revealing answers or funny answers. And then the reaction that someone gets, now it's their turn to ask a question, and they can ask a question of that same level. So all the questions have 1, 2, or 3 exclamation marks as well. The short answer is, if you give a good answer, then you get to ask your good question. So
like
it's just a way to
like digging a little deeper, because you want to ask that like a really good question in your hand.
Okay, so you two came up with all of the questions in this. There's nobody else involved.
It's actually really funny. Someone asked us, like, we're how many years into the project, and they're like, so where'd you where'd you get the inspiration for the questions? Did you buy the other any other competitors, look at lists online, whatever? And we're like, we didn't even think about that. Like, that is so not that is so not where this thing came from. Like, what's cool about it is like it really is like very authentic. Like the whole purpose was, let's find like what's genuinely coming up in our lives, talking to people or in our own minds that we don't actually bring up, and let's create like a space for it.
Aside from during our Kickstarter, we had a perk where a couple of people got to submit a question.
Okay.
But other than that, I think everything has come from us, either directly or someone will suggest an idea, but as Devon's describing, often it's like a conversation, and then that one, I'm going to write that down.
Yeah, we definitely have friends who are like super like into it and like come up with ideas too, and we use them, and it's like wonderful to have the crowdsource.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So Kickstarter, this is another cool thing. It was really supported by just people that believed in it, loved it, and it was probably a good kickstart to what you wanted to do. Like, if you hadn't had the Kickstarter campaign, do you think that it would still be a thing?
It's hard to say. The Kickstarter was really the turning point for us, where it was, okay, this is something we've been doing for fun. People are responding to it. Let's take it one more level and, put it out there. And if we make it, then we keep making it. And if the campaign doesn't go well, then we just kind of roll it up or keep doing it for fun. But
we kind of got to the point where because it was like super iterative, right? So it was like a stack of Post-it notes, and then it was like me designing it on like a pirated copy of like, whatever Photoshop, and it didn't look good at all. And then we printed at the print shop, and we like cut it ourselves into little cards. And so we're bringing that to parties. We're just like leaving it on coffee tables, like seeing what happens. People really love it. They're all asking for it. So we're making more and more. And then we were like, we basically got to this point where we're like, we need to like put this to bed and like focus on other things, or we need to like, take it to the next level to stay engaged with it, right? Because we had been doing it on this like super passion, like genuine passion project kind of mode for like 4 or 5 years, whatever, at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we did our first like real kind of prototype, and then got great response from that. Like got feedback, gave it to a bunch of people, and then did the Kickstarter.
Yeah. So to answer your question, it's hard to say if it would be a thing, because the Kickstarter is not only the money that comes in, and there's other ways to raise money, but it's also a huge way to get eyes on it, from not just from strangers, like people see it from it being out in the world on Kickstarter, and it gets a lot of attention that way, but also just in our own communities, because we're constantly promoting it and really tapping into our communities here in Vancouver, and
it kind of gives you a reason to like be like really be a advocate for yourself or your project, and then be like a pest, like to the level of being a pest, right? Because you're forced to, because you're under the gun and the clock's ticking. And you either hit your mark or you get nothing. So
it's true. I can relate completely, 100%. So what would you say your biggest challenge was in the process of launching Fluster? Your biggest challenge, and the thing that you were just surprised just was so easy?
Well, a challenge like that comes up, like we were just talking about, is Kickstarter, because it is really hard to estimate when you haven't done it before how much work that is. Like, all the prep is hard, obviously, and there's so many kind of details that you don't think about immediately when you first have the idea. But then for that, 4 weeks, or I forget how long our campaign was, something like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It is all consuming.
Yes.
And it's actually pretty funny, because like it feels like everything you're doing and all the people who are close to you in your life, it feels like it must be all you're talking about, and you're posting about it on social media, and you're sending people emails, and you're asking people to share it with their friends, because of course the sharing is the gold, right? That's the most important part, and it has to start with your own kind of community, unless you're lucky enough to get sort of engagement with like journalists or some kind of buddy like that. but it's so funny because it really takes so long to sink in, and you're at like the end of the campaign and your friend is like, so what you been up to lately? And you're like, the Kickstarter.
You're
I
like,
feel like it's all I talk about.
Yeah.
Have you backed it yet? Have you shared it? Like, I love you, please.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Help us, we're dying.
I know how that is. Oh, my favorite is like after you've done like a big release show, and a week later, one of your close friends says, so when's your next album? When are you going to have your next album coming out? Or when's your release show? And you've been like promoting it for 6 months. And
the good thing though is that if you think you're bothering people with constant self-promotion, they probably haven't noticed. So that was what
that's true. Yeah. I always, when I get down about that stuff, I always think, you know what? The cool thing is there's always someone out there that's going to be new to this thing. Yeah. Well, we've got 7.5 billion people to reach here with Fluster. So I would love to just get into it and play the game with you both. I think it would just be such a privilege for me to play with the designers, the creators. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, sure.
To do that, yeah.
Okay, I'm excited. So I want to tell my little heartbeat listeners too that the reason I've got Walker and Devon on here is because I really want to say thank you, Walker and Devon, for being the first partner to sponsor my podcast. Thank you.
It's an honor to be the founding sponsors. Yeah,
it's exciting for us too.
I hope it works. I hope somebody buys the game at www.flustergame.com, and I hope they use my promo code. Do you guys know what my promo code is?
Christina 15.
Yeah.
And we can console you, Christina. Some people have.
Really?
And oh yeah, we see them come in. So we should put it out there to ask those people to tell us what they think. Tell Christina what they think. Use your hotline and say,
the Heartbeat
I bought
hotline.
Fluster because you like it, and I think it's a piece.
Yeah. Call the Heartbeat hotline and give your full report, or throw a Fluster question in the Heartbeat hotline, and then I'll answer it, and that'll be another way y'all get me to talk about Fluster.
That's right.
I love this idea so much of some of your fans going through their Fluster decks, finding their favorite question, and then calling in the hotline and asking you. And if Walker gives me the nod, I think we should say that the first person to do that gets we're going to send you a gift.
Yeah, I'll give you the nod on that.
He nodded. We can keep it in the podcast episode. That's a great idea. That is so fun. Does it matter where they live in the world? Because I've got listeners overseas and all over the place,
We can send it anywhere. It just takes a long time to get there overseas. But
so anyone listening in Japan or Germany or the UK,
Yes.
I guess Canada too, call the Heartbeat hotline. You'll get the number at the end of this episode. And wait, how do they get this again? If they're
the first one to call into the Heartbeat hotline and ask you their favorite question.
Okay, not a Fluster question. Because I was like, what if they don't have Fluster?
Yes, a Fluster question.
Yeah, no, they one of the people who have bought Fluster, because we know you're out there.
And they get another copy for free?
Yeah. They get it as a gift.
Okay.
Okay.
Or they can probably find a Fluster question online somewhere if they want to get creative.
Yeah.
Or they could take one of the Fluster questions that I asked in a previous episode, 1 to 5. Okay, so how should we go about this? We're gonna play Fluster on Zoom. You have an expansion pack.
So the expansion pack situation right now is there was the Sexpansion pack, which I think you have a copy of. Is that right?
No, I don't.
Okay, we never saying that.
I want it. I want it bad.
Okay. Well, you're out of luck, but you're in luck. So the bad news is that the Sexpansion pack is gone. We're sold out.
That's good. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, good for us, but bad for people who want it because we've been very slow to make the new ones. But they are coming. So there's an updated Sexpansion pack, which is called the Spicy Pack.
Ooh.
And so it's sex-related questions.
I love it.
27 new questions. There's also a new type of special card. We were talking about like the Fluster card and Around the Horn card earlier. So there's a new special card in the Spicy Pack as well. And then all new, upcoming, we have the Laugh Pack, So some people have told us that Fluster gets a little too heavy. And so these are comic relief questions, funny stories, questions about, your sense of humor and that sort of thing. And so that's the two new / semi-new expansion packs that are coming soon. We have our prototypes actually with us.
Right now? Oh, yeah. Guys, I'm so excited. Okay. All right. Well, I'm ready. Throw one at me.
Okay. What are we thinking? Laugh or spicy?
Let's start with laugh.
Yeah, okay.
All right, Christina, if you had to write a comedy based on some aspect or phase of your life, what would it be about?
It would definitely be about most of my childhood. I think there might be a particular, I was saving this for an intro to another episode, but I'll tell you what, I'll read it to you right now. So it'll be for this episode. It's meant for this episode. The reason I wrote this story of a sweet girl called Christina Martin, excitement, tragic, and good. This is from when I was a little girl, and I would have just moved from Rothsay, New Brunswick, to Grand Falls, New Brunswick. And my father had committed bank fraud and then disappeared. Like, he left and then disappeared. And so we were living in this big mansion, and my mom had to sell everything. And we moved into, like, my brother, her, and I moved into this 2-bedroom condo, and she had to, start anew, go on welfare, start anew, get a job. She didn't work. My father wouldn't let her work for, while they were living together. And so it was pretty, I'm laughing. I know this is supposed to be a comedy, but I also think it's so kind of hilarious. Like that. And this is hilarious that I wrote this little story. Would you like me to read it to you?
Yes.
This is the comedy that once upon a time, there was a gorgeous little girl named Christina.
With great self-esteem.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. This girl loved horses very much and one day wished to have her own. When she was 10 years old, she began riding at a pony club called the Rothsay Pony Club, and she adored it. She made a very special friend called Haley, who I'm still in touch with today. Haley's going to be on the podcast because Haley is one of the first people in my life that I really learned how to just like laugh from my guts, like total belly laugh. So she made a very special friend called Haley, who had fun with Christina and never stopped being friends. That's true. Christina's life was perfect. She lived in a beautiful big house and had everything she needed. Perfect parents, perfect pets, a perfect school, and perfect horses. One day, everything shattered. Her daddy had to leave home for a while. Every comedy has to have like some drama, right? At some point, like some tension. Her daddy had to leave home for a while, and she didn't know when he was coming back. She missed him dearly. Since he was gone far away, her mommy couldn't afford, this actually isn't funny. Her mommy couldn't afford the house, so they had to move, leave the friends, school, horses, and perfect life. They moved to a place called Grand Falls. At first, Christina thought everything would be perfect, but it wasn't. Her mom had to start work, and her dad still wasn't home. They had talked on the phone and written, but it wasn't the same. Her friends weren't as nice. My friends were actually really nice. Christina got very bored in her new place. She even couldn't ride horses. But one day, her family won $10 million, and her daddy could come home. She got a horse, and they moved back to Rothsay, and everything was perfect again and forever. The end. This story is a true life story. The people are still living, not true, and are living a happy, perfect life. I actually am pretty fucking happy. Author, I don't think you spell author ATHOR, but anyway, Christina Martin.
Wow.
So did you really win $10 million?
Yeah.
And let's talk about perfect, because that was a theme.
Yeah, I know, right? Good question. No, did not, but I feel like I won the lottery with the way my life is now.
So this is kind of one of those more inspired by true events stories.
Yeah. But during that time that we were living in Rothsay, I remember writing a romance series about my friends in my class, and I would read it in front of the class, and it got so steamy that the teacher, I would read it at lunchtime, and the teacher asked me to stop, and then kind of scolded me because it was inappropriate. But everybody was so into it, all my classmates, and like on the playground, like they wanted me to keep writing it. But I was so ashamed because I had upset the teacher, and then I just felt like shame. So I did not continue writing it because I was so afraid to get in trouble. But it was so fun.
It's kind of funny to think about like the inappropriate things that happen. Like it's really weird, but there's this Clarence Carter song called "Strokin'." And it's very sexual and
Nice,
inappropriate.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know how. So this just came up, this song popped into my life again recently, super randomly. And I was just reflecting on like, we were obsessed with that song when we were teenagers. We had dance moves to that song. We would do them at school events. And our teachers just had to, I mean, they didn't stop us. They probably just hoped that we just sort of like, let's just let this phase and move on.
Right.
You know, like,
Yeah.
it's not worth trying to stop.
What were you doing? Stroking it? Like when the song was, or were you just singing it? Or were you acting out? Like what was the thing
It's
that
kind of choreography a little bit. That wasn't like, you know, super graphic, but it
wasn't not super graphic.
Can you guys, I know the listeners can't see it, but I wish you could do it for me right now. Do you remember?
You brought it up, Devon. You can.
Yeah, come on, Devon.
Stroking to the right, and I'm stroking to the left.
There's a lot of hand action going on here, listeners. That was really good. Thank you.
But not like, you know, it's like it's alluding.
Yeah, sure. No,
it's not on the nose, people.
So did I answer the question? I don't even know.
Yeah, there's a few options for a comedy in there. Definitely.
Okay. All right.
But some dark comedy.
Yeah, I think that would be my favorite anyway. Dark comedy. You want me to throw a question at y'all?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think there's any cards in here that are like not safe for work, are there?
Depends where you work. Yeah. Like literally not safe for work. I would say yes, but we moved some of the more sex focused questions to the Sexpansion pack when we made that. So we've tried to make the main game a little more broadly appropriate, but it all depends who you're with and what their comfort level is. There's nothing explicit in the main game, I would say.
No, have you had any complaints though?
About that specifically?
Have you had complaints where people are like, this card shouldn't be in here?
Yeah, we have. And you know, most of the time it's good feedback, and we haven't had a chance recently to update the deck because we are mass producing now, so there's more time in between versions. But definitely, for instance, when we were rethinking this expansion pack for this new spicy pack, you know, there were questions that either we'd gotten feedback on or seen. You know, we play the game lots, and especially early on, we were playing it with our friends a lot, and you know, we see how the conversations go, and also just, you know, like Devon said, you know, your perspective changes over time. So there's things we include in one version and then we come back to 2 years later and realize, oh, this could really be taken the wrong way, or this could be upsetting for a type of person that we hadn't thought of at the time, or it's just, you know, it's just maybe not even that interesting to us anymore. So we definitely do change a lot, and some of that is based on feedback we've gotten, but most of the feedback is very positive. Yeah,
you're open to evolving and listening to.
We want to.
That's great.
We want to hear, especially because people are, especially if they like you, they are easy with the positive feedback, and sometimes it's harder to get,
Yeah.
negative feedback. So more recently, especially, we've been very deliberate about getting feedback on new questions from as wide a variety of people as we can get.
Okay, here's a question for both of you. What is the most significant difference between the person you are now and the person you were 5 years ago? And who came up with this one?
I don't know. If I had to guess, and this might just be a false memory, I would say Devon had an idea around this, and I think I came up with this version of it based on an idea of Devon's, but that could just be a totally false memory.
That is
Cool.
how most of it works out most of the time. It's
Yeah.
like, just like someone has a spark of an idea and then we workshop it like pretty extensively.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Like what is interesting about that? What are we trying to get at? Do you have an answer locked and loaded?
No, never. Locked and loaded.
5 years ago. I mean, depending on how old you are now, you may not be that different than 5 years ago. But if you were like the difference between like 25-year-old and 30 or 30 and 40,
Yeah,
they can be.
I think, yeah, I'm 32, and so a pretty big difference. I think that like, I think probably a lot of people could relate to this, but I feel like late 20s, early 30s for me has been like pretty deep growth, like really recognizing patterns that weren't working, and then like committing to looking at them in new ways.
Yep.
Huge advocate of counseling. That's something new for me in the last few years. I hired a coach. I don't know if that was 5 years ago or a little more, but that was sort of the beginning of my journey. It was supposed to be like a leadership coach. Like, I framed it in my like business part of my brain. And then I realized this pretty quickly. Oh, darn. Okay. Leadership coaching is just being a better person. And it's just life coaching. It's just, it's getting into the sticky, crunchy spots and working through them. I am definitely a different person, and I'd say I am much more. I think I'm probably a lot more self-aware, probably a lot kinder to myself, hopefully a lot more understanding and kinder to other people as well, and not as stuck in one mode as I used to be. Mm-hmm. I think I developed, those sort of like superpowers that then or those like strengths that then get like stuck, and you like forget that they're actually like most useful when you use them in the right moments. But then, you actually have like, like recovery time in my case, like not just like go all the time. And like, you need that balance for it to work.
Yeah. That's a lot. That sounds like you've been doing a lot of personal growth in a short period of time.
I got a concussion, like a mild traumatic brain injury a few years ago, and that has been, very, very difficult.
Wow.
So that's been like a pretty accelerated form of unique evolution.
Have you were you a patient person before you got the concussion? And is that something you've had to, kind of work on acceptance and embracing just the fucking state of the current?
Acceptance, not my strengths. Definitely the type of person who, has ideas and just thinks, okay, I can make this shit happen if I work hard enough at it, and there's no limits, and there are limits. And acceptance is actually a really critical part of a process for a lot of things that has been really hard for me.
I've definitely noticed that, as your friend and collaborator, that, Devon, sort of what we were speaking to earlier about our different personalities, that Devon could always kind of go, and wasn't always understanding of people who didn't have that energy and didn't have that personality.
Yeah,
and
I can relate.
Could be kind of like bothered by that. And now that, you've been put in that situation of like now being a person who can't go all the time, I've noticed you've been much more and like you can just obviously relate more to that feeling of like, oh right, this is how it is for some people that you just like
Yeah.
can't always be going or don't have that same personality because your personality has been changed by external factors.
Yeah, totally. Like I'm still struggling with the injury, and the recovery process is much longer than I ever would have guessed. But I'm so grateful for that. Like I have, for the first time, been like dealt with mental health issues in a way that I never had at least acknowledged previously.
Mm-hmm.
And having dealt with some deeper bouts of sort of depression and anxiety in many forms is, so many people deal with that stuff. I'm grateful to now be able to like genuinely empathize and relate. And that's a good thing.
Yeah. And to be an example as somebody who, made it to a better day and stuck it out, had to suffer, and I hope you're doing okay today. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm good. Big picture, life is good and definitely worth living, which it hasn't always felt like it over the years. But but I'm still managing it every day. It's still, today's Wednesday. It's my rehab day. I go to different appointments and I work on it. But yeah, there's also just the thing about these like kind of invisible injuries, like a concussion or like mental health things. They're invisible, and I guess it kind of relates to Fluster in the sense of like, you have to ask questions and you have to be able to have the self-awareness to communicate about what's happening for you. And people have to have the patience and the interest to ask and to care in a way that is like, not obvious to everybody all the time, automatically or by default.
Yeah.
Once you've experienced it and you recognize how lonely it feels to be sort of experiencing this thing that nobody can relate to easily, it can't just automatically pick it up.
Do you hear people go, well, thank you so much for sharing? Because that's what I want to say. Like, thank you for sharing that part about you, your life.
Yeah, for sure. That's, people want to hear this stuff, but it feels not acceptable to just go, hey, what's your invisible pain? Tell me about that for 5 minutes, But it's like, if it's written on a card, it's a safe way for people to ask. And people do want to hear those things. They don't feel, you worry that you're sort of burdening people with your issues and whether they relate to them, directly or sort of tangentially. It almost always feels good to have someone share something like that with you. So that thanks for sharing is definitely a phrase that comes up in a Fluster game a lot.
What about you, Walker? 5 years ago?
My answer to that question?
Yeah.
It's not as deep or topic as that, but
I don't know where.
All right, we'll pass. Let's move on then. Why bother?
No, what I was thinking was that over 5 years, I think a lot of the so we're the same age. I'm also 32, and a lot of the sort of adult checklist of things that I felt like I had to reach to feel like comfortable and set, like professionally, I feel like I'm there now, like I'm not like, oh, this is my first real job or my second real job, like they're going to find out, so it does feel like a lot of those things are now kind of not things I have to worry about. A lot of the sort of adult life things are just not open questions anymore, like they probably were 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Where it's like, is this going to last? Am I like actually, set up as a functioning youngish adult?
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's good though. It's a good feeling. The 20s are weird. I just found them. I'm grateful for everything I did in my 20s, but I just found it very hard and can relate to a lot of what you both were saying, into my 30s. Not the concussion, never had a concussion. But I will say, I hope this is the same for you both, that it gets better. It gets better. Yeah, that's my hope for everybody. Gosh, I hope it gets better. What do you want to, do you have time to keep doing a couple of cards on your end there?
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bring it.
Are you ready for spicy?
We're going to the spicy.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Spice it up. I don't know. I'm really prone that yes, I want to.
It won't be too spicy.
I want to be brave.
I've heard you ask spicier questions than
really
previous episodes. Okay, so this is a new one for the spicy pack. It's not the expansion pack.
Okay.
What type of person were you attracted to at one point in your life, but wouldn't be now?
Oh boy, I'm.
Your face lit up and you thought of something good. We could see it.
I think I was into, I mean, I married a musician, but I was definitely into like the badder boys in the bands, you know, like what, okay. I was like one guy, you know, there might've been like a Fleas situation and that, you know, I just wouldn't put myself in that position today, no matter how cool the person was. I was like, I'm not into Fleas. Like, I'm not into.
Yeah,
I love your dogs.
Here first, folks.
Yeah, I love your dogs.
Not into Fleas.
Not into Fleas. Yeah, because I am an animal lover, but I'm a little bit of a neat, tidy. Maybe I'm even a little bit of a germaphobe now. I'm not after this pandemic.
I just listened to the episode where you had Dale on, and it's funny. I'm thinking about where he was saying that you were the person who was like going on jogs the next morning after a show, and
oh yeah, yeah, and even like I mean, I knew how to let loose back then, but I still was very disciplined ever since from a young age. I was very disciplined and always had to-do lists and goals and those types of things.
So I feel like this could be like there's another Fluster question, which is one of my favorites, like one of the OG questions. That's one of my favorites, which is what's a contradiction in your personality? And I feel like that could be a good one for you, which is you're like, you know, the rock star musician person who is like, you know, got life goals, to-do lists, morning jogs. And
I've always been like that. I've loved structure and I loved homework, organization.
Yeah, I love finding out about like things that seem contradictory in people's personalities or like, you know, paradoxes. Like this is the good stuff in life. This is the interesting stuff.
That's a good question.
Thanks for sharing.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking. Thanks for coming up with great questions. Well, I'm excited to someday get to see you in person, but I'm just really grateful. Thank you so much for supporting the podcast. You're the very first sponsor. And the website is flustergame.com. And where else can people connect with Fluster, buy it?
Instagram, we're at Fluster Game. We're on Facebook as well. And our website has a list of all the stores that we sell in. So mostly out here in BC, but lots across Canada, a couple in the States.
Feel free to just email us as well. You can find our contact on our website. And
easy.
Yeah, we love to keep the community growing. So if you have ideas or you want to reach out or you have stores in your town or something that you think should carry it, we'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, and don't forget to call the Heartbeat Hotline and throw one of the Fluster questions back at me.
First person to do that we're gonna send them something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Find it on one of the previous episodes, 1 to 5. Well, I've enjoyed this, and I wish all the best to you both. Let me know if you need me. You know, we'll do this again sometime. We'll have a catch up. I want to know how you're doing in 5, 10, 25 years. You know, we'll see how we've all evolved.
Sounds
hopefully,
great.
Hopefully it's just up from here, like I said earlier.
Yeah.
Okay, we're counting on it.
Yay! Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us on.
Welcome to the Heartbeat Hotline, 1-902-669-4769. I'm the host of A Chat with Heart podcast, Christina Martin, and I'm so excited you called. Leave me your question, a suggestion for the podcast, or a comment about this episode. Please be aware your message may be used on the podcast and social media. Tell me your name, where you're calling from, and it's also fine if you want to remain anonymous. Thanks for listening. Have a great fucking day. A Chat with Heart, produced and written by me, Christina Martin, co-produced and engineered by Dale Murray. Check out Dale's website, dalemurray.ca. The podcast theme song, Talk About It, was written by me and recorded by Dale Murray. You can find it on all the places you stream music. Production plans for this podcast and Season 1 are supported by the Province of Nova Scotia's Women in Business Implementation Fund and the Creative Industries Fund. Special thanks to Terrence Taylor for mentoring me on hosting this podcast and really digging deep with me on my production plans for Season 1, which, let's be honest, Terrence, ended up being more like well-needed psychotherapy for me. To Crystal Seeberger at Sensory Friendly Solutions, thank you from the bottom of my heart for helping me learn how to be a more inclusive, accessible, and sensory-friendly human. Visit my Patreon page to become a monthly or yearly supporter of this podcast and my music endeavors. If you're new to Patreon, it's a membership platform that helps creators get paid. Sign up at patreon.com/Christina Martin. For this to be a massive success and reach 7 billion people, I need you to share, rate, leave a review, and subscribe to A Chat with Heart on all the places you listen to podcasts. Wishing you, my little heartbeats, a great day.